Also on our left, a boys' school with the grass in front. If you're good with Roman numerals, the school was founded in 1810. It's for young men aged 11 to 18, and they're all academically inclined and going forward to university joined together. They're also known as 2 up, 2 down, 2 rooms above, 2 below, 1 family. Always kept their properties nicely painted, clean curtains, window boxes and so on in the summer. So people came here for the work in the textile business, and originally we made cotton, bringing the raw cotton from America. People are very loyal to the British Crown, and they would prefer that the present state of affairs continues where we're part of the United Kingdom. Have a look at these paintings on the right. Some are amateurish, others are very professional. There's a most unflattering one there of President Bush, of these across the city. There was an earlier building there for the same purpose, but it was demolished and replaced. You can see the fitness equipment upstairs, and the swimming pool is here on pavement level. All of these leisure centres have swimming pools. At the far end of the black railing, we are coming to a little memorial garden. It's been here for about 6 years. It commemorates the hunger strikers who died in the early 1980s. Now, you may remember that the group of hunger strikers were agitating for the whole island to unite and become a republic, and they were prepared to starve themselves to death to further their cause. The group of hunger strikers appears in the painting in front of us on the right. It's on the wall of the Carnegie Library. Carnegie was the Scot who went to America, made his money in metal, and left it for these libraries to be built all over the British Isles. We have 4 of them in Belfast. And then some of you may have seen the film In the Name of the Father, and if you did, the second painting on the right of the man by himself appears in the opening sequence of that film. That's Bobby Sands, the first to die in 1981. Again, that was recoloured this summer, and it's on the end of the building, which is the Sinn Féin Information and Publicity Centre. Time in Belfast, if that flag appeared, there would immediately be a riot, but not anymore. These things are tolerated. During the time of President Clinton's administration in the States, there was a lot of interest in what happened here. And the President stayed in your hotel overnight. He came to Hospital. Those of you with connections to the world of medicine will have heard of this Royal Victoria Hospital. Many of the buildings near us are 100 years old, but look to the right, behind them, the new wards, which were opened a couple of years ago in New South Wales. Now, have a look at the houses, both sides of us and further back as well. All of this build is replacing the old streets that we started with. This is public housing. People pay rent for these properties. The average rent in Belfast, £46 a week, and for that is of potatoes. You saw those growing yesterday as you drove through County Antrim, the main potato harvest in September into October. All of our police stations used to look like this because they had become targets for terrorists to throw incendiary or explosive devices at when we had unrest here. But remember, the peace initiative was in 1998, so gradually, it's taking time, all of this is going away. There's your hotel again on the right, the largest in the city, as I said, the one that President Clinton stayed in. And up to our right on the little rise, Murray's tobacco factory, the brick factory, the fibre in the stalk of the flax plant that is used to make the thread. And of course, back in the 1800s, a method of spinning was developed here, whereby the atmosphere in the factory, after 3 hours on Sunday, you were nicely prepared for the week ahead. Because of our trade with America, Belfast has the oldest American consulate in the world, 209 years. Their offices used to be along there on the left in Queen Street, with the white bricks housing the best collection of Irish works anywhere on the island. Here's our City Hall on the right. It took 8 years to complete and was finished in 1906. Now remember, I told you that we became a city in 1888. So when we started off as a city, They were trying to put our shipyard out of production. In the war years, we had 24,000 men working in the Belfast shipyard. The worst air raid, Easter Tuesday 1941, when almost a thug memorial is just behind Mr. Harland. Here it is on the right, commemorating the 1,500 who lost their lives when the vessel sank in April 1912. On the left side, at the end of the white wall, just above the Securicor van, on the wall you'll see another blue plaque marking the site on the left where Harry Ferguson of Massey Ferguson Tractors had his garage. Now those tractors revolutionised farming across the world. It was the linkage system before it was put on the market. Look in through the back door of the City Hall as we go past. You'll see that the building is hollow. It's built around a courtyard, and one of the things that happens here, civil weddings. The registrar's office is in the building, and he was a career diplomat. And there on the left, the Northern Bank. The Australians may remember the big bank robbery here at Christmas time. That's the branch that lost £26 million one afternoon just before Christmas. Some of the money was found in Cork. None of the robbers have as yet been apprehended. And at the time, of course, the Northern Bank was owned by the National Bank of Australia, but it had already been agreed that ownership would pass to the Danes, who are now here. There's Marks and Spencer on the right, with W.H. Smith, the stationer and bookstore. On the left, Boots the chemist. Notice the Next shop on the right. I had Russians the other day, and the only shop they seemed to want to go to was Next, which surprised me very much. I didn't know that the Russians would ever have heard of Next, but there you are. And if you corrupt Belfast, you get Belfast. The river still flows here. It's going the way we are, but in the 1840s it was put into a pipe or culvert under the road, and the road was put on top. Until that time, the river was the anchorage for sailing ships, but ships got bigger, the water wasn't deep enough. It's a memorial to Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, and about a third of the way up the tower there is a statue of Albert. We're going right up against the tower. Albert will be looking at you on the right hand side. Our main post office is in front on the left. It relocated to that site just a few months ago, but we have branches of course, houses and the pubs, while others were doing the loading and unloading work. A church behind the trees on the right, the third on the site. The first church there built in the 1300s, that one in 1813. Nowadays it's an Anglican or Episcopalian church. And on the left, 40s, it had major renovation a few years ago at a cost of £8 million. And we've put some solar panelling in the roof. The optimism of the Irish knows no bounds, and it's going to take at least 30 years to recover the expense of our solar panelling. Here's the river on the left, open sea away to the left, behind the coach once we turn. And we're going to cross the river in a moment. There's a big fish on the river bank. He's there because we've cleaned the water. You can now catch salmon in it if you have time. And the clock tower to the right, you'll notice it isn't straight. It leans over to the left, 2.5 feet from the perpendicular, because of course that river flows underneath, the river Farset. Now we're going to cross the river Lagan, L-A-G-A-N, here on our left. And the river is tidal, the rise and fall of the water about 12 feet. And so we have a control point away, leaving exposed mud and in warm weather a very unpleasant smell. Nobody wanted to be anywhere near the river in the summer months. So we've cured the problem. Now you see some apartments on this other bank. But remember, I said that apartments are not popular for families. The people who buy these are yuppies. I think you know about yuppies. And also seniors who've had the Odyssey Arena. We've introduced ice hockey as a new sport. So looking into the shipyard, the two cranes and the building dock underneath them, all of that structure put here in the 1960s, built by the German firm of Krupp from the Ruhr. If you look high on the end strut of the first crane as we go past, you'll see the word Krupp embossed into the metal. For sport in summer, indoors in winter, and notice the little rose garden here on the left. It's only a sample. We have 100 acres elsewhere in the city, and 3 weeks ago we hosted the International Rose Trials with growers coming from all over the world. The Macready family from New Zealand exhibit here each year. There's a commercial centre, and on it the oil storage facility for Belfast, which we moved away from other buildings onto this open site. The hill to the left dominates the city, Cave Hill. You came in past it last evening, and on the lower slopes, photograph if you wish to do so. You remember that the island of Ireland divided into two countries in 1921. Ornamental. They are lime or linden trees, and they are deciduous, so the leaves will fall in October, and they do not produce the kind of fruit that you use in the kitchen. Now we're just going to stop on this side of the road so that when you get out you're not having to walk across the traffic. There is traffic in this road, so be careful about it. Finally resulted in Ireland dividing into two. After that he stepped back from politics, returned to the law, but he's here forever. And his nickname, we've had Michael Flatley and the Irish dancers. They built up staging and seating for the audience there. The little statue in the hollow on the right, the theme is reconciliation, and on that are words like Jerusalem and Berlin. There's some very nice shrubs, spring flowering shrubs in this park, azalea, rhododendron, but of course they're in flower mainly in May. We have cherry trees either side of this gate. 100 years to look good and 200 years to look impressive. We can't wait that long. There are more government buildings along here on the left. I told you that agriculture is important, and under that main heading there are divisions dealing left. There's nothing wrong with them. That is their natural foliage. They're called copper beech, and the brown is often planted in amongst the green just to give the church in Ireland. And especially on this road as we go back towards the city centre, you will see a considerable number of churches, and if you look at them, bulk grocery stores. This is a popular shopping area with the local housewives. I hope you've been noticing our hanging baskets and our floral displays. Those are looked after by the Belfast Parks Department, and they water twice a day and twice a week. The flowers get a little miracle grow, which seems to do the trick. Here's the bread shop on the right, Elizabeth's Cake Shop. You notice the window is open upstairs. They bake on the premises. The aroma hits the pavement. And in about an hour's time, coming up to 11, everybody remember clearly when we were all children. Children behaved exactly like that too. There was always one who didn't want to play with the rest, and I'm afraid the same thing seems to carry through into adult life. Be an academic in the universities of Oxford and Cambridge, but he always came to Belfast in the summer vacation. He was very fond of his home territory, and the film Shadowlands was made about his romance with the American lady. So we've a little statue of Lewis along here. It's just hiding behind that green bus which is moving now to the right. He's on the grass under the big tree the man, the wardrobe and the chair. The wardrobe is in the children's stories and it led into the land of Narnia. Also in this area, Van Morrison, the singer and songwriter, was born. Over to our left in Hindford Street. Is a loyalist area. This time of year it's easy to tell a loyalist area because the decorations are in place. The 12th of July is a public holiday in Northern Ireland. Notice this is all rebuilt housing like the streets we saw earlier. If you look up and down the side streets there are more decorations. The 12th of July is a public holiday. It's the day when members of the Orange Order have their parades and processions. The Orange Order has existed since the 1700s. It's a loyalist organisation, loyal to the British Crown. It has branches all over the world, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, America. This year we had a delegation visiting us from Alabama, last year from Chicago and Detroit. Every town and city on the 12th of July in Northern Ireland has a procession of members of the Orange Order. Have a look to right and left as we cross here. You'll see decorations as far as you can see in both directions. And then on the right we have the Orange Hall, the building where members of the lodge meet. Notice they've got the American flag, the Canadian flag, the Australian flag and several more. The Scottish flag is there, the English flag, and also the Northern Ireland flag. And the procession in Belfast would take about 2 hours to pass any given point. It's composed almost entirely of men, very few ladies. Everyone walks. They cover a distance of about 5 miles from the City Hall into the suburbs. They have a rest and a lunch and speeches and then 5 miles home again. And nowadays most members of the Orange Order would be aged 30 and above, many of them in their 70s and 80s. River. We're crossing this time using the Albert Bridge, and on the far side you'll see some more new apartments. Those on the right, very much in the Dutch style, the tall thin buildings with quite a steep roof. It's the only this time of day anyway. And we're just about to pass another leisure centre on the left and also the Central Railway Station. And this is where you catch the train for Dublin. The journey time 1 hour and 40 minutes by train. It takes about 2.5 hours by road. And some people actually commute. Your hotel straight in front of us down the little side street. But we're going to finish our tour by having a look at the older of our two universities. This area, known as the Markets area of Belfast, it was the first part to be rebuilt in the 1960s, and in Ontario there are a few exchange students each year. And until 12 months ago, the Vice-Chancellor in Belfast, the man who does all the work and earns the big salary, was a Canadian, Professor Sir George. By all sections of our community, he lived in your hotel for many months in 1998 and almost single-handedly is responsible for bringing about the peace settlement here at that time. He had great patience with our intransigent politicians and eventually brought them to a meeting of minds. So when he comes, George Mitchell gets a very warm welcome from all. to Belfast once, 1849. This city is regarded as being a Victorian city. When you get to Dublin, it's a Georgian city and much older. And Queen Victoria, Belfast, 2 windows and a door on the right, where the caretaker used to live. I think he moved when he grew weary of going in sideways. And here's your hotel on the left, and then across the road is the Crown Bar, the Victorian pub. It's going to close for 2 months very soon for renovations. We're going to stop where we started the tour, just outside the Opera House.
We're just about to leave Belfast city centre. It's an interesting city, isn't it? It is indeed. And I'll give you some suggestions on what you might like to do before we arrive in Dublin. And then tomorrow morning, here's an army watchtower just up there to our right, and indeed one the other side of the border just back over our right shoulders. But they're the ones that are being slowly dismantled now because of the ongoing peace process. So welcome. So the garden of remembrance through to our right, remembering those who fought and fell during the War of Independence. Just ahead to our right. Within that complex of 18th, 19th century buildings, the Gate Theatre, the building with the green dome in the background, the Rotunda, the Charity Hospital. Oh, something by Arthur Miller there right now. Oh yes, a view from the bridge, just to our right. As we go slowly forward, on our immediate right, that monument to Charles Stewart Parnell, 19th century Irish statesman. On our immediate right, we're now just into O'Connell Street. And as we move slowly forward, there's the Millennium Spire coming into view just ahead of us. Yeah, just about it. And as we move forward slowly here, Cleary's department store ahead to our left. Not one of the better department stores. General Post Office building to our right. Various there's Eason's just there to our right. Ahead in the centre of the street to our right, 1960. Oh, the trams came back to Dublin about a year ago. There are trams operating in Dublin now again for the first time in over 50 years. They're not really of any use to us. They're fine if you want to go away from the city centre out to a suburb. Do you have it back home?
I don't.
You here in Ireland. I haven't spotted it in Britain, but I guess if it's here, it's probably there. Looking down to our left there, the custom house, the building of the Green Dome, 18th century. And as we move forward and follow around to the right and then following left, the kind of up there to our right, lovely old pub up there called the Bank. It used to be a bank. Very, very ornate building. The ladies and gents is actually in what used to be the safe room downstairs. Dublin is always busy. Don't be surprised. As we move forward, just ahead of us, see all those people? That's Grafton Street. And just ahead to our right, see the lady with the wheelbarrow? That's Molly Malone. Molly Malone, just on the pavement by the bicycles to our right. And then Grafton Street just up to our right. Loads of restaurants all around here. Subway for sandwiches and rolls or whatever, just there to our right. A pub, a different one, the port.
Lunch between 1 and 2, so it tends to be a lot of people on the streets. We're going to start the first bit of our tour. Being right here, we'll just get, and it is just a quick glimpse, folks. You need to look down and into the corner on the left here, and you'll see a statue, if you can see him there on the rock outside, and the European flag. Just slightly back to the right, that is the National Gallery of Ireland. There's over 2,000 works of art in that building in there, in that gallery. And we have paintings in there by Rembrandt. Well, it's the Irish word for a parliament, which would be like the equivalent to the House of Representatives in the US. We have 166 elected members here in our parliament. They're not in session at the moment, they're on vacation. And in Ireland, they get 84 days vacation, would you believe, the map. So coming along here, on our right-hand side there, you're looking at the Georgian style of architecture. Now on these Georgian houses here, what you see is 4 stories over basement, and the kitchens will have been in the basement of these old houses. You see the lovely Georgian doorways here. There are no 2 doorways exactly the same. They're all different in their own right, and the size of the windows on it's owned by Louise Kennedy, a girl, she's in her late 40s, and she owns that house there, a famous Irish fashion designer, Louise Kennedy.
Today all these buildings in Dublin, these are all preserved, these are listed buildings, they can't be lost for development. It was the emergence of the Irish Georgian Society, which was set up here by Desmond Guinness from the Guinness Brewery family to preserve Dublin, because prior to the 60s there was actually 1 mile of Georgian houses on this street here. And this is a little bit like Harley Street in London, so this is where you come to if you wanted to get your face lifted or your body lowered and your Botox and your implants and all these kinds of things. They can all be done here at a cost if you have the money. And Ireland is Georgian houses, quite a few private homes here. And in this square they cost about 10 million to buy. We can go around the corner here, we can make a short little photo stamp here for you. There's a particularly nice doorway coming up soon. Yeah, we're just, we can get out here for photos here as well, that where your hotel is located, you're actually right in the heart of Georgian Dublin. It's very, very nice, a very good location. There's a lovely song about Dublin, you'll hear it tomorrow at the cabaret show, and the words of the song go that Dublin can be heaven with coffee at 11 and a stroll in Stephen's Green. So this is the lovely Stephen's Green here on our left, and many's the time our list from here. His most famous novel was Ulysses, where he describes a day in the life of the 2 principal characters, who are Leopold Bloom and his very promiscuous wife. Now coming up, just set back off the road, just on our right hand side here, we're looking at the home of the Lord Mayor. This is the Mansion House on our right now, the Mansion House, the Lord Mayor's residence. We have a lady Lord Mayor. She doesn't like to be called Mayoress, they like to, she like her. Look to the right there. See where the man is playing the barron. Down on the right there, that's Molly Malone. Isn't she lovely? The Dolly Parton of front of Trinity, down to the right. Now you read in your guidebooks about in the area those little maze of cobble-on streets that runs between this street, which is called Dame Street, and the River Liffey, which is just a block away from us here. So it's the area sandwiched between Dame Street and the River Liffey is Temple. Cathedrals. So coming up soon, on our right hand side here, we see Christ Church Cathedral, which was built back in the year 1038 by the Danish king, King Sihtric. So that's it there, the Viking cathedral. We have a Catholic country here, but yet in Dublin we don't actually have a Catholic cathedral. We have 2 Protestant ones here. And the reason for this, and they believe this to have been the well, but they're all waving to us there on their coach there. They believe that this was the well used by St. And up at the top of the street lamps you can see that there are shamrocks there. The shamrock was picked by St. Patrick to explain to the people of Ireland about the Holy Trinity. So there you have there, up at the top of the street lamps there, the lovely old shamrocks. Now the shamrock is not our national emblem here, a national emblem newspaper. I thought it was funny. Now if you look across now, across the river, over to our right here, you're looking at the 4 courts. This is where you find the law courts, and this is where we have the highest court in the land, which is called the Supreme Court. It's a wonderful 18th century building there. This is our River Liffey here. Now the River Liffey is a tidal river. You can see by the marks on the inside of the river wall here how high the tide rises here. So it is our River Liffey, spelled L-I-F-F-E-Y. It is the Liffey that gives Dublin its name in the English language. Dublin actually comes from the mispronunciation of 2 Irish words, which are Dublin, south side of the city, and a little bit later on we'll be crossing over then onto the north side of the city. But we're going to take you along here now, and we're going to bring you up to the famous Guinness Brewery. I told you earlier, you must drink Guinness while you're here. We're not going into the brewery today, you're only going to see it, but do drink a Guinness before you go back home. You must do. It's completely different to any Guinness you've tried before. The Irish Guinness is the real Guinness. The city centre. So So once you get through the traffic lights now, we're going to go up here, pan tomorrow. If you want to go into the brewery, you need to allow minimum 2 hours to see the brewery correctly, properly. So this is it here on the left. A little bit further along here we'll find that the gates will be open. And we can get a little look in. 1759 it was founded by Arthur Guinness. But Arthur Guinness secured the lease on that land for the... But here in our nursing homes, here in Ireland, we give out free Guinness. This is not where you're going to get it, mind you.
Is that where we're going to go?
Now we're going to show you a real gem that Dublin has here. And we're going to take you up here to show you the famous Phoenix Park. We're just entering the Phoenix Park now. This park has 1,760 acres of land in it. It is a huge park, the Phoenix Park. To put it into Britain, what they will not tell you is that he was actually born here in Dublin. Just off Marion Square, if you remember when I was showing you the art gallery, that's where he was born, just by the art gallery there on that street. The zoo is busy today with families taking their children to the park, to the zoo. This is the zoo on the right hand side, Dublin Zoo down there on the right. The third oldest zoo in the world after London and Paris. And it opened here back. I'm going to take you around here now, and we have any American passengers with us today. Just look across to your right there and you see the entrance to the American ambassador's residence there on the right hand side. The people of the US were the first people to officially recognize school holidays here. It's a busy time. She was born in Belfast, which, as you know, is part of Northern Ireland, which is part of Great Britain. Now, if you look carefully there at that building, you'll see that there is a little light left on in the top of... You also feed them with Guinness. Makes them run a bit faster, doesn't it? Just the same for Leo the lion. Keeps his growl nice and strong. On the right there, you're looking at the Wellington Monument again. Now, there's only one, but wasn't it a great deal that he secured? Imagine 45 cents a year for 9,000 years, this lease here. And it was Arthur Guinness who coined the phrase that Guinness is good for you. Now, it was certainly very good for him, because on Guinness alone, he fathered 21 children. 21 of them. And that was before the Viagra was on the market. Just Guinness. 21 children. And he only had one wife, but apparently he had a few friends around the place, a little Molly Malone, probably obliged him once or twice. That's the brewery there. And if any of you fancy going up to the brewery tomorrow, when we finish the trip to Glendalough in the morning, I'll point you in the direction of the brewery. But it's a short bus ride. It's really too far to walk, but it's a short little bus ride, and I'll show you which bus will take you up there, Guinness Brewery. Now, it was in this part of Dublin here, this is where the whisky used to be made, the Jameson whisky. Now, the whisky is no longer made in Dublin. In fact, the whiskies today are all made by a company known as Irish Distillers. Come along now past the law courts, which are the four courts. Just on our left here, these are the law courts on our left. Now, I'm sure you're aware that we have a smoking ban here in Ireland, and really the only place here in the Republic of Ireland where you can smoke legally is really on the street. Everywhere else is out of bounds. Now, if you break the smoking ban here, you might end up in the law courts here on the left. And you might even end up with a prison sentence for smoking, to protect workers in the workplace. So if, perhaps in your own home, you have employed somebody to come in for a couple of hours a week to clean your house, to help clean the house, your house would be considered a workplace, so for that reason you would not be allowed to smoke in your own home. If you were looking after perhaps an elderly relative and you had a nurse coming in once or twice a week to keep an eye on them, it is still considered to be a workplace, so you could not smoke in your house. It has been very well received, this smoking ban, and in a recent television poll, they asked people what was the best thing about living in Ireland today, and people said the smoking ban. So that's good. Look quickly across to the right there. You see the building with the large arched windows just on the right, the third building along. And you see the copper facing there on the roof? That is the Clarence Hotel. It's owned by the band U2, the famous Dublin rock band U2. It's owned by them. Millennium Boardwalk, and it was built to celebrate the year 2000 for Dubliners. So it's just like being on a ship. You can walk along the boardwalk. You can take a rest on the seats there on the inside of the river wall. Take a rest from the city, but it is nice, the Millennium Boardwalk. On the opposite side of the river here, this is the Temple Bar area we're looking at again. So just to remind you about Temple Bar, it's the area sandwiched between the River Liffey and Dame Street. Dame Street is the street which runs away from the main entrance to Trinity College. That's a halfpenny bridge we're passing now. So that's all Temple Bar area, all along there on the right hand side, the Temple Bar area. Now you came down O'Connell Street earlier and you noticed that there's an awful lot of works going on O'Connell Street. They're putting down new paving there, and it's an absolute nightmare to get up and down O'Connell Street, so we won't go back down O'Connell Street again. But you would have seen our Spire of Dublin when you came down along O'Connell Street. Now, it's best to see it actually, as we're going to be turning right here now, if you look to your left, when we're turning right, look down to the left, you'll be looking down O'Connell Street. The Tart for the Cart, and the Queer on the Square, and the Stiffy by the Liffey, my goodness. Now, the spire actually is on the site of where we used to have another monument, which had the nickname, it was known as the Flues. When it was founded by Elizabeth I of England. The street up to the right there is Dame Street. And Trinity College, of course, is the home to the big treasure of Ireland, which we call the Book of Kells. And the Book of Kells is a copy of the four Gospels. Just by the van here, on the minibus on the right there is Molly Malone. That's Grafton Street ahead of us here, Grafton Street. And we come along here now onto Nassau Street. Now look across here, over there in the corner of the square on the right, there he is, the Queer on the Square, Oscar Wilde, an absolute genius. The fellow who wrote, amongst others, Lady Licorice Fan, The Importance of Being Earnest.
No, well, if you had a good woman in your life, you'd take her for a walk through here at 8 o'clock at night. You want a bit of arson, you can. The tram network is back.
So what Catalan post?
Oh, hang on. Okay, audience, when I lift this left leg, my whole body is going to be inside the box. That is your cue to go bloody crazy. Hang on, I'm not in yet. Oh. Okay, Peter, close the door.